my biggest challenge that I've ever faced was not becoming a Green Beret. It was actually not being a Green Beret anymore.
There's a difference between a quiet professional and a silent professional. We're conditioned as Green Berets to put the mission first and get the job done. That's why Army Special Forces is the tip of the spear both in wartime and in peace.
The Special Forces ODA has been the most requested soft unit of action since the beginning of the global war on terrorism.
For our first tailgate interview and a kickoff the Jedburgh Podcast's new home as an official program of the Green Beret Foundation, I sat down with CEO Charlie Iacono and America's largest Green Beret Nick Lavery, who last joined me squeezed into the back of the WC-51 on episode 105. Charlie shared his vision to enhance educational opportunities, make benefits the easiest part of transition, and how he's preparing the organization for America's next battlefield. Nick explains why he's committed to keeping Green Berets first in the fight, and how telling our stories is critical to both retention and recruiting of the next generation. Americans in combat may be out of the spotlight, but Green Berets continue their mission in every corner of the world, and supporting them and their families will always be the core mission of the Green Beret Foundation.
You know, we've supported more than 16,000 Green Berets and their families, have supported the community with $15 million plus of revenue into the marketplace to help guys heal in both mind, body, and spirit.
You decide if we're in a 1939 moment, but never forget, the Boston Tea Party was an Army operation.
Nick, Charlie, welcome to the Jedburgh Podcast, live from the Army-Navy game at Gillette Stadium. Nick, this is home.
This is home, brother. How you doing? It's good to see you again, Fran.
It is good to see you. The last time I saw you, you hopped into the back of the truck, the Dodge WC-51. We were at Sandlot Jack's, and I told you then, I'll tell you again, you're still the biggest guy who's ever sat in that truck.
Well, you know what? I made it work. It helps when you can do like weird little tricks like this. I'm like a lawn chair. I can fold myself in and out as I need to.
You're incredibly flexible.
That's that. Multi-jointed.
I see all your posts on social media. I see you working that flexibility every single day. So that's testament to that.
It helps, man.
Well, look, hey, we're here. Okay, first time that the Army-Navy game has ever been at Gillette Stadium, and you guys have both been here now for a while. Charlie, you live up here. Nick and I are both from the area. Came back this week, been here now for a couple of days. I will tell you, as soon as you come into Massachusetts, as you, I'm sure, saw, the signs on every road are talking about the Army-Navy game. I think Boston, I think Massachusetts, the entire Patriots community has come out because absolutely everyone I know who lives in Massachusetts who has anything to do with Army-Navy is coming to this game today.
Yeah, man. It's wild. And I think, don't quote me on the exact date, but I want to say this year is like the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party.
Oh, which
someone fact check me. But I know we're in the arena of that. So, you know, I doubt that had anything to do with the timing of scheduling this game here, but this is where it all started, man. This is where it all started. A couple guys in a bar with some ideas, and look where we are today, you know.
Well, here's the most important thing about the Boston Tea Party, all right? There was no Navy present.
This is true.
Not only was there no Navy present, this was the Continental Army, the formings of the Continental Army, but these guys were insurgents. Okay? These guys, in my mind, you know, we talk about the Jedburghs, right? That's what I talk about every single day, and we credit them to kind of being the first of the modern era, unconventional warfare special operators. No, let's take it back. It was those guys in that bar in downtown Boston who said, let's go have a party on the harbor.
Yeah, man. And just think of not only the courage, which is obvious, right? A couple guys in a bar that are thinking about going up against the largest military superpower that the world's ever known. So the courage, the balls, is obviously there. But the visionary behind it, that accompanied that, to actually been able to kind of see what is possible, you combine those two things together, a concept, a vision, and the courage to actually act on it, you can create miracles. And we're living in one literally right now.
And this is what Green Berets do absolutely every day in every corner of the world. Charlie, this is the first time on the Jedburgh Podcast.
Yeah, first rodeo.
So
welcome to the show, brother.
Love it.
Well, first of all, as our mutual friend Jason McCarthy would say, you owe a case of beer.
Yeah.
That's a case of beer.
So, but that's okay. I put two of them in there for you.
Good, yeah. So. We're good. We can roll, you know.
You recently came into the role leading the organization. We've had the pleasure to sit down not only with Jason, but with General Tovo, talk about the mission of Green Beret Foundation, all the things that are happening. And I had the honor of going down to the headquarters earlier this year, become immersed in the entire organization. Beth McDonald, as you know, was my advocate, helped me go a 4-year process and close that gap to get to the full disability rating. So, the foundation is not only important to me in terms of everything that you're doing for Green Berets, but also for what you've done for me and my family. As you sit in the role right now, talk about the vision. What's your vision for the organization and where's it going?
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. First and foremost, thanks for having me, Nick. Always great to see you, brother.
My man. Yes, sir.
It's just fantastic to be here with such a storied community, Army Navy historic game. But the foundation itself is still a relatively new organization. Obviously stood up by an incredible guy, Aaron Anderson, founder of our organization, realized that there wasn't a benevolent organization supporting the SF. And he quickly changed that. And now, 13 years later, we've supported more than 16,000 Green Berets and their families, have supported the community with $15 million plus of revenue into the marketplace to help guys heal in both mind, body, and spirit. But really the future of the foundation is all of that and then some. We are one of the few organizations that service and support the veteran community of the regiment and also the active duty space. And that's what distinguishes us against all the others that are out there. And we love all the other benevolence. We love other companies that are working hard to get guys what they need and their families what they need. But we're going to take that level that we're at now and take it to the next level, embrace that force multiplier mindset. And really it's going to focus on the mind, the body, and the spirit, not just for the warfighter, but for the entire family. Mm-hmm. Children included, scholarships. We're upping our game in scholarships. Recently acquired the Benny Atkins Scholarship Foundation, storied Green Beret, won the Medal of Honor.
Legend.
Incredible legend.
Legend.
And what makes him even more of a legend after his service was that he taught guys that he served with in Vietnam, he taught guys how to read. And he has had, and since his passing, his family has continued to lift up that legacy because he recognizes that you need education. Whatever level you are in life, you need that education. So we're launching a new scholarship initiative with that. We're also launching in the redefined Next Ridgeline program, which will encompass the VA benefits program that you experienced with Beth. Also, shout out to Beth, just an incredible Gold Star spouse, beloved member of our community. But we're going to take that to the next level, and we're going to start to introduce career services hubs, connecting Green Berets and their spouses with career opportunities, as well as other programmatic development areas of financial literacy, relocation, understanding where to buy if you want to start a new business. Maybe don't move to Orange County, California. Maybe move to a more friendly state like Texas that's business friendly and supportive of entrepreneurs. So it's a bright future for the foundation, all while also preparing for the next conflict. Mm-hmm. Getting ready to support our war fighters and their families when that phone rings. It's a commitment that I've made since day one that when that phone rings, we're going to pick it up.
Yeah. One of the important things I think that you're starting to focus on as you've come in the role is to really start to bring the network together. Mm-hmm. And I think I've been fortunate to be able to be a part of it, and now Nick's coming in and taking a greater part of that, expanding that Green Beret Foundation network. Nick, as you now begin to work more and more with the organization, talk about what do you see in the organization?
My transition, not to get too off track, has really already started because I'm getting the opportunities to spend more and more time doing things outside of the uniform, which is amazing. Kind of the irony of it is, for 20 years, the world, and particularly the nation, knew what we were doing. And many wanted to act on that in support of our service members because we were in multiple conflicts and it was right in front of their faces most of the time. We obviously suffered many losses. The Special Forces ODA has been the most requested soft unit of action since the beginning of the global war on terrorism, by a mile. And that's because of what we do, how we do it, and the effects that we create.
And they bear the burden of the losses, as you said.
And with that comes a lot of losses. All right, heavy costs come with that, which we accept wholeheartedly, no problem, no hesitation. My point is that for 2 decades, organizations like GBF was able to receive more funding and support because it was so obvious what we were going through, and people wanted to be a part of that support network. the truth is that although we are no longer in that type of conflict like we had been, we're seeing the effects, the second and third order effects of having been at that tip of the spear for that long now. So you could argue, and Charlie would know this better than me, but I would, where I'm positioned today, say that the demand, the need for services like this is arguably higher today than it was even at peak GWAT, because a lot of those lasting effects didn't take place while guys were actively in the fight. And you're seeing that trickle effect happen now. So one of the things that I message loudly is, one, just because you don't see it on the 24-hour news cycle like you did, we're still out and operational every single day around the world. And two, the need for support and resources, in my opinion, is higher today than it was back then. So just because it's not as obvious, do not mistake that for the need to no longer exist.
Yeah, there's a lag factor, that comes with this, right? Everybody was still, up until 2 years ago, really, in the fight. And now, as Charlie, you talked about that next conflict, we have to prepare the force for the next conflict. But a lot of those who were in the previous 20 years are now going to get out over the next couple of years. Yeah. One of the things that I think is really important as the organization has grown is to put an advocate and a representative in each of the active duty groups. Can you talk for a second about that initiative, where it is, and what the next steps are for it?
Absolutely. We are stronger together. That's a new phrase that I'm using. And the reality of it is we need to be where the various groups are from a transition support perspective, but also from a perspective of if somebody walks into fifth group and talks to Tim Ambler, who's our VSO at fifth group, and says, hey, I'm having some trouble with this initiative, or I'm having some trouble with this life experience. Who can I talk to? Tim knows he can call somebody right away on the team, and we'll start servicing that particular request. So it's there to be embedded with the groups, to be able to form that long-lasting partnership of trust and donor-centric, partner-centric, but more importantly, friend-centric mindset. But then also to use that as, a force multiplier concept to say, we're going to be with them across the entire spectrum of their career in service and then post-service. And so what I've been saying is effectively, but not really in 100% cases, the global war on terror has concluded to the levels that we once saw, like you were just talking about. The challenge is that conflict may be over for the guys in SF and those who are in the conventional forces, we're fighting. But they are fighting a now new conflict. You have traumatic brain injuries, you have PTSD, you have struggles with alcohol and substance abuse issues, you have transition issue. I said to one of the VA guys that we work with on a regular basis, why does it seem like the hardest mission a Green Beret has to deal with is when he gets out, he's trying to get his benefits, right? And in the world that we live in, you sign a contract, you're expected to get the benefits that you're promised when you're 18 years old or 20 years old, and then you're trying to go get those benefits, and it's all of this red tape, and it's all these challenges. And our VSOs, Daniel Roscoe, Scott, Brian, Beth, etc., they help guys navigate that just constant mountainous terrain to let it be and make it be a little bit easier for them. So we help them with that, because quite frankly, what we don't want to happen is exactly what happened in the Vietnam era. You had guys that came in, they got evaluated, they got their award, but then 25, 30 years later, they started to develop serious issues, cancer, other traumatic brain injuries that were finally coming to the head. And so you have to go and reevaluate their med grade, right? And you see like, oh gosh, like they're at 60%, they should be at 100%. And so we specialize in that too. We get guys who've been getting benefits for all these years, and we get them the right rating. The problem is you don't want the guy to get the right rating with the one-time check. It's a 40 years of back pay or 30 years of back pay, which is great. But think of all the challenges that person has gone through in their time of service. But then also, too, like they didn't have that money for 30 years. So the initiative that we're trying to do is make sure that guys are rated the right way, so they're set up for success on day one when they transition, whether it's 3 years or whether it's in 10 years. Mm-hmm. You want that next chapter not to be a conflict. You want it to be an adventure, and a good adventure at that.
Veteran veteran transition has been top of mind for me over the last couple of weeks. We've really been talking a lot about it on the show. We've had a couple of great organizations who are helping veterans transition out. And I've said openly that my biggest challenge that I've ever faced was not becoming a Green Beret. It was actually not being a Green Beret anymore. And what does that next chapter look like? And how are you prepared? What do you do? How do you redefine yourself? What is the next step? How do you stay involved, but know that I've got to move on and go do something else?
Yep.
So having this advocate there now was something that didn't exist when I got out. And to me, that's a touch point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important, almost a safe space, if you will, that I think the transitioning special operators can go to and say, look, man, I don't know what's coming next.
100%. The reality of it is this. If you can navigate and ensure a successful transition, it's not only going to put that individual in a position to win from day one, but it's also going to curb the existential crisis that we have with soldier suicide. And it has to be addressed. And a lot of it is these guys who do incredible things like Nick and you and Jason and Travis, who's here with us today. They've done all these incredible things for their career of service. They get out, and some of these guys really struggle to land a job because, in fairness to them, they joined when they were 18, right? They never had a job interview per se. They didn't have to they didn't know who they should talk to interview prep. So it's taking them a lot longer of a time to get settled in their next journey, right? They haven't identified what that next spark will be. And that's where that slippery slope begins. You start to see some challenges and guys struggling, and they start to second guess whether or not they should have transitioned out, and maybe they left a few years on the table, which is all valid. But what you don't want to happen is in them to take that right turn or that left turn and go down a really dark road. And that's where we're kind of at right now. And I've said this a number of times to a number of really good thought leaders in this space. We fix transition, and the Green Beret Foundation is planned to do that for our community. We're going to fix it, and then we're going to roll it out to the greater conventional forces and there are the other branches and say, take this and replicate it. Here's the playbook. Go be the force multiplier and fix this problem.
So we've got another responsibility too, I believe, and Nick, I believe that responsibility, incumbent upon guys like you, me, is to motivate and prepare that next generation of Green Beret. One of the things that I love about everything you're doing, and we talked about it a bit last time we sat down, but with the book and Objective Secure, and all of the messaging that you're putting out on a daily basis is not only important for anybody who's looking to improve themselves, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, they can take something out of there, but it's motivating for the people who look at what you did, look at our world, look at the Green Beret and say, that's something I aspire to be. That message that you're sending is critical in that recruiting time, for that recruiting effort.
No, and I appreciate that, man, especially coming from a colleague and a fellow warrior. And Charlie and I were talking about this at dinner the other night, and we go by the term quiet professional, and it's ingrained in who we are. It's part of how we live. We're people of action. We let our actions speak for themselves. We don't need the spotlight. We're looking for results. In fact, more often than not, we want deliberately someone else to be in that spotlight on purpose. When you take the route that I've taken, and you're going to start to open yourself up and share with the greater society in the world, that there's a conflict that exists within that. Am I violating this ethos? Am I violating this code of ethics? And it's a struggle, and I struggle with it to this day. But there's a massive difference between being a quiet professional and being a silent professional. And I think that one of the things that we as a regiment have done quite poorly is sharing knowledge, sharing our experiences, letting people know who we are and what we do. Because in order for anyone to want to be a Green Beret, they have to, one, know we exist, and two, ideally, have an idea of what we do, how we do it, and why we're such a critical asset, and the opportunity that comes with being one. So while inspiration and instruction and motivation and all these other intangibles that I seek to provide, one of the major focuses is simply knowledge and information, and to provide awareness of who we are, what we do, because I think that that's really where it begins.
Yeah. I think another part of that too is supporting each other, as former teammates, right? Mm-hmm. Looking at each other, other guys who are out there who are doing what you're doing, and supporting it.
Sure.
I think, we haven't done a good job. I agree with you. And I think too many times we've looked at guys who do put themselves out there, and then you hear the talk, oh, F that guy, F that.
Sure.
Why is he doing that? I shouldn't be doing that. It's putting it on him. No, this is important for the community.
Right.
Because what happens is the guys get out and they become reclusive almost. And if you're not out there talking about it, what it does is it opens up others to talk about it. Charlie brought up the veteran suicide rate. And SOF has a ridiculously high percentage of that. And I've gone back and forth with SOCOM on the exact numbers over the last year. But that percentage, at a period of time, I think it's dropped a little bit now, commensurate with the rest of the Army. But for a good period of time, it was higher than the regular Army. And I think part of that is because guys think that they have to forget and put in a box everything they did, and the realities, which I did. When I got out, I had my box of all my Army stuff, and for about 6 months it sat in the box. And I was like, I don't know if I could take it out. That was then. What's now? And then eventually you open that box up and you say, no, it might not be what I do now, but it's a part of who I am. It's made me who I am, and it's a part of my history. And now being able to see stories like yours and the other guys who are out there doing stuff, it allows you to become more open and then recreate that community that you had before, but in a different way.
Yeah, and I think you're dead on, man. And I think that as long as and people are always going to judge, and I receive that same kind of ridicule.
Fuck it.
And that's okay. You know what? I get it. I respect it. I understand it. I believe something different, and that's okay. And we can have different opinions, and you can do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. But when you approach it with values and with integrity and with morals and with respect to that organization in which you come from and proudly represent, and you do it, let's just call it, quote, the right way, whatever that may look like, I think that whether someone wants to do something similar or not is irrelevant. It's, to your point, Fran, it's not only is it okay for me to talk about some of the things I've been through, whether I'm trying to share knowledge or provide inspiration, or it's more just therapeutic for myself. Not only is it okay, but it's actually in my best interest and the best interest of others.
Yeah.
Whether it's the others that I never know and will never meet, or the others being my wife and my kids and my teammates and the people I do care about. Not only is it okay, but it's actually an asset that you have at your disposal.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, Nick, right? I mean, we're both blessed to have incredible spouses, and we're all blessed, right? Here on this, we got a great family, great sense of family. And I've long said, I remember when I was interviewing with the board of the GBF, and they said, so what's your 30,000-foot review of the organization? We've been talking a couple of weeks. I said, look, we've got a great story, as a foundation. More importantly, there is a great story in a historic story of the regiment. We're just not telling it. And they're like, oh, you got to be careful about that. I said, no, to your point, it's imperative that we tell the story for all those who have come back, for those who've not come back. So quite frankly, for those of us like myself who've never served, right? So we as civilians understand it, but more importantly, so your children understand it, your kids understand it, future generations of your family understand it. We probably all had relatives that served in the Second World War, right? For the longest time, my father-in-law thought his dad peeled potatoes in the Army. His dad was a member of the 82nd Airborne and jumped into France before the invasion, right? They never knew what his dad did. Highly decorated, right? Because they didn't talk about it. So that's where we've really fallen off with the understanding of the importance of storytelling, which is so great because you have this podcast and there are others that are out there that are telling that story so people can understand. So when they start to think about what do I want to do with my life, the option of actually serving your country becomes the forethought of that conversation. It doesn't have to be the Army. We'd love it to be the Army. We'd love it to be the Special Forces. Yep. But it can be other branches, too. There are other ways to serve. That's one of the things that we're really trying to strive to accomplish as a foundation, to entice the younger generations to get excited about service, to get young spouses to be supportive of their husbands or their wives if they decide to start to explore that, to say, yeah, that can make a really cool life for us.
Well, veterans' impact doesn't just happen when they're in the service.
100%.
If you think about this country, this society, right? Somebody asked me a few weeks ago, they said, what's one of your top books? Obviously, Objective Security.
Obviously.
100%.
My second favorite book, okay? by also a well-known author named David McCullough, wrote a book called 1776.
Amazing.
And what's he talking about? He's talking about a group of people who came together, as we were joking in the beginning, and truly changed the world and built a country. And then look at what our veterans after World War II did. Our Vietnam veterans who were so disrespected, but still went on to build amazing companies, serve in Congress, some who are still serving in Congress, right? For better or worse. But that's what they did. And so we have to think right now, at a time when recruiting numbers are down, what's the impact of society? And how is it going to affect things in 20, 30 years from now? Because we still need veterans to come out of service, successfully transitioned, take all those experiences, talk about them, and then make our American society better. Yep. That's the responsibility that we have.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better than supporting a veteran-owned business, right? Yep. You know, there's nothing better to seeing a veteran and a family who has served in a different way when their loved one was overseas, excelling in their new civilian life, right? That next chapter. It's absolutely imperative, and the location of this year's Army-Navy game is so historic, anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, 250 years. But everything else that has been accomplished in Massachusetts that set forth that storied history of America. I was telling Travis Wilson earlier this morning, the first soldier to fall at Bunker Hill was a Mohegan Indian. Wasn't even an American. Had no rights that the colonials had, right? But he believed what that idea could become.
Wow.
And that has always stuck with me when I spend time with the Mohegan Nation and them telling me this, and that they have a long storied history of service. And they said, quite frankly, in wars that we weren't even able to eat with those who were serving in the Continental Army. Think about that, but still believed, saw the vision. And that's where we have to get back to, right? We all have our differences. We all have our political spectrums that we sit on. We talked about this the other night. Everybody kind of just moved a little bit more to the right and to the left, as my wife says, to the center. Greater things could be accomplished. I think that the future of this country is incredibly bright. And it's because of those so few people who choose to serve our nation.
Guys, I got two more questions, and then we're gonna have to get our game on here.
Yeah.
We gotta get Nick over to his next cameo.
Cool.
What's the focus now? We're gonna close out 2023. I can't believe it, but as we sit here in early December now, by the time this airs, we'll be into 2024. But what is the focus now in 2024? First for the foundation, and then second for you, Nick.
I'll quote General Braga, and when I was with him recently in Charlotte, prior to that was right after the terrorist attacks on Israel by Hamas, and he said to a group of about 85 entrepreneurs, executives, make no doubt about it, we're living in a 1939 moment again, and we do not have the luxury to sit back for a few more years and kind of see how it plays out. So the focus for the foundation in 2024 is going to be to continue to care for the warfighter, past and present, and their families, but it is to really surge our activities in fundraising prowess to get ready for that conflict, because it's coming, unfortunately. And we don't know where, we don't know when, but we know, because we know the history of the regiment, it's going to be those Green Berets that are the first ones, the tip of the spear, that are in country already, embedding with the indigenous populations. And so when I say that proverbial, when that phone rings, that proverbial statement of we're going to pick it up, it's not only that we're going to pick it up, we're going to be able to deploy the resources and the actions of the community, and individuals like Travis Wilson and Jason and Walt Cooper and all of our incredible board members and all of your former teammates that have been there. They're going to want to mobilize around that community that's taken that fight to the enemy again. And we're going to be there. And whether it takes 12 months or 18 months until that happens, or hopefully never, but when it does, and if it does, we'll be there to support it. So it's a huge focus on surging our ability to raise more money. That's why it's incredibly important to support the foundation, whether it's through our awesome partnerships with like Alpha Elite Performance or Team Machine or Dugout Mugs or Heritage Distillery with the soft branded whiskey that they just released in honor of the regiment. The reality of it is there are lots of different ways you can support the Green Beret Foundation. And that's what we're asking the community to do, to become that force multiplier, become part of that network, and let's activate the network and leverage what we can do for the community.
Good stuff.
Nick, what's your priority in 2024? Besides motivating me every day when I wake up and see your posts.
Priority in 2024 is my family. That may go without saying, but I think it's important for me to continuously remind myself of that. As much as those of us that are fortunate to love what we do professionally and want to do it as often as possible, those of us with family responsibilities, I think it's important to just keep that at the forefront of our minds. So that is phase one, step one. I left the team life about a year ago now. So I sit as a company ops warrant. I ride a desk most of the time. You want to do the cool guy stuff forever. It runs its course. But it's truly amazing what I get to do now. And I swore that I would be miserable doing any other job in the Army for the rest of my career. My wife will tell you. And it turns out I was just wildly wrong, man. I learned that in about a week or so. So I got a lot to learn with that current responsibility I have. And we talk transition, and I'm just in such a fortunate position where not only do I know what my next purpose is beyond military service, but I get the chance to do it now, nights and weekends, passion project style. So watching that continue to build and the services we provide to our clients and the work we get to do with our friends and partners, it's exciting, man. It's a fun ride. I make mistakes as a business owner and entrepreneur daily, and you know what?
You have to.
That's the idea. It's like, let's get it wrong as often as early as possible, because that's where the lessons are learned. And I'm looking forward to 24, man. It's gonna be a fun ride.
It's exciting though, I'll tell you, because I live the same thing between the podcast and then my company FR6, and we're doing it every day. It's like, didn't think about that.
Yep.
All right, let's approach it.
So,
General Braga.
Beat Navy.
Oh,
Let's go.
there you go.
You guys on right now?
Sir.
Yeah, we're on right now. How are you doing, sir?
All right.
You want to grab a seat?
I got my mother waiting up there alone.
Oh,
I ran
okay.
back to drop her pocketbook off. Now I got to run back. She's alone. That's a dangerous thing right now.
dangerous.
I'm predicting up by 10, win by 10.
All right, I like
Love it.
Prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 7.
I went with 7 too.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
17.
Going big.
Oh man,
Sally's going big.
Yeah.
Sally's going
Another
big.
good friend of mine right here, West Point classmate, P. Gutted.
How you doing, Charlie, man? Nice to meet you.
We're on right now.
You're
I'm on right now.
Yeah.
Go Army, beat Navy.
There we go.
I didn't mean to interrupt the flow of the conversation right now, but I had to stop by.
Of course.
We were together last week.
Yeah, we were just talking. I was just saying it. Yeah.
It was good.
You can interrupt us anytime you want, sir.
No.
We're here for you.
I know, but I say longer, but my mom's over there, and I don't want her to get lost. We got to be able to get her pumped up to beat Navy.
Absolutely.
Go.
All right.
All right, take care, man. Take care. Merry Christmas if I don't see you.
See you later.
All right, thanks for stopping by, sir.
Oh, yeah, Russ, a great guy, yeah. Yeah, good stuff.
All right.
Perfect.
Perfect.
That was
ending
perfect.
right there.
Great time,
Couldn't
yeah.
have timed that better.
I mean, just wrap that up with a Red Bull right there. I mean,
That's it. We're
just-
done. We're cutting
yeah,
it
that's
off.
it.
Guys, thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
brother.
friend. Yeah, Merry Christmas.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast, an official program of the Green Beret Foundation. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other long and short form content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow the Jedburgh Podcast and the Green Beret Foundation on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, or Threads. Send your comments and inquiries to fran@jedburghpodcast.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Media Channel and the Green Beret Foundation remain committed to supporting all generations of U.S. Army Special Forces and their families. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.